President Bola Tinubu reshuffles his cabinet, scraps some ministries, fires 5 ministers, and hires 7 more. The People's Democratic Party postpones October 24 National Executive Committee meeting after a stakeholders meeting in Abuja. Welcome everyone to Politics Today. I am Terry Ikumi. Oh, what a day it has been. A much anticipated cabinet reshuffle has finally been done. President Bola Tinubu has scrapped the Ministry of Sports Development and the Niger Delta Ministry. A statement from the presidency says there will now be a Ministry of Regional Development to oversee all the regional development commissions, such as the Niger Delta Development Commission, the Northwest Development Commission, the Southwest Development Commission, the Northeast Development Commission. Now, the National Sports Commission will now take over the role of the Ministry of Sports. The Federal Executive Council also approved the merger of the Ministry of Tourism with the Ministry of Agriculture, with the Ministry of Culture and Creative Economy. Now, those decisions were taken today at the meeting of the Federal Executive Council in Abuja. Meanwhile, 5 ministers have been discharged. They are Barrister Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, Minister of Women Affairs, Lola Dejon, Minister of Tourism, Professor Tahir Maman, Minister of Education, Abdullahi Gwarzo, Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development, and Jamila Bio Ibrahim, Minister of Youth Development. The president fired 5 and hired 7. The new ones are Dr. Nentawe Yilwatda, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Muhammadu Dingyadi, former Minister of Police Affairs under former President Muhammadu Buhari, is now nominated as Minister of Labor and Employment. Wife of late Biafra leader Odumegwu Ojukwu, Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu, is nominated as Minister of State, Foreign Affairs. Dr. Jumoke Oduwole is the Minister of State, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment nominee. Adi Maha is the Minister of Livestock Development. Honorable Yusuf Atta, Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development. And Dr. Suwaiba Siyadamad is the Minister of State Education. President Bola Tinubu also appointed former Minister of Sports Sunday Dare as Special Advisor on Public Communications and Orientation. Now, according to the President, he believes that these actions will reinvigorate the administration's capacity for optimal efficiency pursuant of his commitment to deliver on his promises to Nigerians. Well, that's where the conversation will really anchor today, because it's been very much anticipated. So the conversation will now revolve around whether this move is commendable or not. It seems to be unprecedented because, less than 2 years into an administration, there's been some sacking and hiring. Anyways, we'll take a quick break now for political roundup, and when we come back, conversation will continue. Stay with us.
The Senate has called for a national summit to address the syndrome of out-of-school children. This resolution was taken during plenary after the submission of a report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary on the compelling need to tackle the challenge of out-of-school children in Nigeria. The chairman of the committee, Senator Usman Lawal Adamu, representing Kaduna Central, disclosed that over 2 million out-of-school children have been enrolled in the last 1 year through the collective efforts of the agencies of the ministry working on out-of-school children education. According to the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, out-of-school children have become potential bandits, exacerbating the need to curb the menace. The Senate unanimously adopted the resolution for a national summit. The House of Representatives has directed its Committee on Power to investigate the frequent national grid collapses and provide a report within 3 weeks. This decision followed a motion of urgent national importance raised by Honorable Mansur Manu Soro during the plenary session. In his motion, Honorable Soro expressed deep concern over the persistent grid failures, which has persistently plunged the entire country into blackout, worsening the economic challenges already faced by Nigerians. The Kebbi State government has approved a minimum wage of 75,000 naira for civil servants in the state. This was announced during the presentation of the report from the Minimum Wage Committee, which was constituted by the governor. Speaking during the presentation, the Secretary to the State Government, Mr. Yakubu Bala, revealed that the committee reached the agreement after a series of meetings with the state executives of the labor union. Ahead of the governorship election in Ondo State, the State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Babalola, has appealed to the media to synergize with the commission in giving accurate information to the public on the forthcoming governorship poll. Mrs. Oluwatoyin made this call during an interaction with journalists in Akure, the state capital. The state resident electoral officer expressed concern over some fake news and called on journalists to assist in disseminating accurate information on the activities of the commission, just as she assures of adequate security during the election.
In the lead up to the election, we count on you to help us educate the public on the importance of peaceful participation. Additionally, it's crucial that you offer balanced coverage of all political parties and candidates, ensuring that your reports remain objective and free from bias.
Welcome back. There you have it, your political roundup. Let's get into the conversation now. The appointments, the firing, the hiring. Let's talk to someone who's followed these activities. Mr. GT Ogunye joins us from our Lagos studio. He's a lawyer and a public affairs analyst. Mr. Ogunye, welcome to Politics Today.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I'm trying to read your mood because I'm sure, like everyone else, you looked forward to this reshuffling. Well, let me get your thoughts on what you think about it generally, because there were high expectations. Does this meet the anticipation that was in the air in the last couple of weeks with regard to the appointments made by the president and those he's had to let go now?
Well, thanks again. In a presidential system of government, the chief executive of the federation of a country is the president, because we have an executive president in Nigeria. And the constitution provides that in the discharge of his executive powers, he may appoint ministers subject to the provisions of the constitution, particularly on the issue of federal character and spread. And so undoubtedly, therefore, the president has the prerogative to appoint ministers and remove them as he may wish. In other words, ministers serve at the pleasure of the president. However, it must be stated that if a president has a 4-year term or tenure, and very early into that tenure, there are suggestions or clamor or a realization by the president himself that he needs to remove some ministers or aides, stating reasons or not stating any reason at all. That presupposes that those who are appointed by that president perhaps were not fit for purpose. And since ultimately the president is the one that holds the mandate in his hand and will be judged, his performance will be judged not only by his own actions and acts and performance in government, but also by the performance of his minister and aides. Ultimately, he bears responsibility. He said that the buck stopped on his table. And for this reshuffle, it's been there for a long time. There's been speculation around it. Some aides of the president had given the hint by giving information that the president will do some reshuffle at a particular point. My take on this reshuffle is that the president that knows the person is appointed, hopefully, and we hope that these ones that have been appointed will be sworn in, some of them will be sworn in, will justify the reason for appointing them. If the reason for appointing them or making them to come on board or reshuffle them was that the president was dissatisfied with those who were there before.
Go back and forth and talk about who deserved to be fired, who doesn't deserve to be fired. But let's look at some critical aspects of this reshuffle. One of it is the livestock ministry, which has now come on board. The president believes that this will address perhaps the farmers' herders clashes. Do you want to speak to that?
Quite frankly, when that idea was mooted by the president and there was a discussion around it, there was a committee that was set up, and it was touted as a good move that will ultimately and finally, hopefully, resolve the farmers' herders clashes. I was a little bit uninterested in that. Why? Because, you know, there is an agitation in the country for a leaner, a smaller government that is efficient. I understand that the name of the game is politics. If you have a government, politics will play a role in constituting that government. So there's always an inclination to pay IOU, to fulfill promises to those who are angling for appointment. But in this country now for some years, since the Oronosai Committee report, and even before then, there had been an agitation that government should be leaner so that it can be more effective to cut waste and excesses. I mean, that government has no business creating cynic chaos for people who just want to be in government. And so if you have a ministry of agriculture, there might even be a minister of state for agriculture, I don't know. And then on top of that, you are creating a special ministry for livestock development. And I don't want this to be taken as a cultural position or a sectional position. The question is, are you creating a special ministry for piggery? Are you creating for fishes? You call it piscatorial ministry, and so on and so forth. What's that ministry going to do? You know, you want to create a ministry for livestock development. I think that if you want to specifically focus on livestock development in Nigeria, there could be an arm of that same Ministry of Agriculture focusing on livestock development. In Western Nigeria, for example, in the First Republic, there was a company, a corporation that was created by Awolowo's government for livestock development. And so ranches were created in Western region. And so some cows were imported from Brazil, from Argentina, you know, beautiful, not with threatening horns, you know, and they were put in those ranches. Successive governments and administration, of course, depleted the stock, you know, through party with those cows and cattle, and then the whole ranches were ransacked and now they became empty. So yes, a government can encourage that even at the federal level, but bearing in mind that under the Land Use Act, lands belong to the state government, and that it is at that level that livestock development ought to be encouraged. I wonder what a Ministry of Livestock Development at the center will be doing, even when questions are being posed about whether you should indeed have a Ministry of Agriculture, you know, at the federal level, bearing in mind that the federal government only has Abuja as its territory. All the other territories in Nigeria belong to the states, where the action should be happening. And if you look at the Land Use Act, you see a special provision where, you know, land could be allocated for livestock development, you know, at the local government level, 20 hectares, you know, per 20 acres, per 20 hectares, if I'm not mistaken. So, but then it is the policy of government. We'll see how it will pan out. and we'll see what's going to happen to it.
Something else you talked about was these appointments were supposed to portray cost cutting, talk about a leaner government. We also talk about the Orosanye report. I don't know if these appointments in any way reflect the Orosanye report. And also, perhaps you could talk about the agitations on whether or not we need ministers of state when we talk about cutting down the cost of government, because we see new appointments for ministers of state.
My short answer to that is that what has happened has not addressed the issue of conserving funds and cutting down the cost of government or making government more efficient, more nimble, and more productive, if you ask me, so that it will not promote emotion. Appointment will not promote emotion, a notion that you want job for the boys and for the big girls. So from what we've read thus far, 5 ministers were sacked, 7 were appointed. So the number has not gone down. And so the agencies and ministries are still there, and departments of government. And there are so many, and there's not been any serious attempt to rationalize or, merge them. It is, when election is coming, politicians throw up a lot of promises. But as we've learned over the years, it's easier said than done. Managing the size of government is an ideal that we have to consciously realize. Particularly because government tells Nigerians every day that the resources are not there. Okay? And so what is the point in making government top heavy? We're not talking about recruiting more soldiers. We're not talking about bolstering up the strength of the police, because, we've not even reached the UN standard. There's so many sort of things to be done. Employment, unemployment in the country is skyrocketing, and so on and so forth. With government perennially telling Nigerians that, government is not a creator of jobs, so government should just create an enabling environment. Government should promote entrepreneurship, as if all those funny talks about how to make wealth and create entrepreneurs will be what will help our country in the final analysis to be an industrialized country. I mean, if everybody is becoming an entrepreneur, everybody, two persons are setting up businesses to do what? To offer services and to sell and buy. They're not talking about creating industry and so on and so forth. All these funny concepts, that they bring from the West, from Bretton Woods institutions, on how to create wealth, on how to alleviate poverty, on how they are funny concepts. But some attempt is not being made to deconstruct them, because they've stayed with us for some time now, and they're becoming accepted by everybody. I mean, even the language we speak, we talk about. If you go to any channels now, any television, and they are talking about the economy, they talk about markets. If people are investing, they say the foreign investors are coming to the Nigerian market. So we are a market. We are not a factory.
Mr. Ogui, let's stay with the context of these appointments. And we were talking about cutting down the costs of governance, and we talked about the Orosanye report. One of the things the Orosanye report talked about was merging agencies of government. About 220 of the 541 government agencies should be merged. Can we truly talk about cutting down the cost of governance if we focus on the number of ministers that we have or do not have, and ignore the redundancy or inefficiency in the civil service with regard to these numbers of agencies of government?
Yeah, we can talk about that, but we must address that issue of cost of government from 2 angles. We have multiplicity of agencies, we have replication of institutions, even the anti-corruption agencies now, this has been on for some time, which make the cost of government to bludgeon. That's one level. The other level, or the other angle, is the cost of government arising from corrupt practices and mismanagement of resources. The perquisites of office, which, become something so problematic in the face of crying and grinding poverty in the country. Okay, so those are the two sources of that are driving cost of government in Nigeria. People may not look at it that way, just say, okay, cost of government, cost of government. What's the cost of government? The money that ministers are receiving, the agencies that we have, and all. That's just one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is what I've just pointed out, the cost of corruption in the country. And I think that moving forward, government should consciously deal with that. My position, and I've made this position clear on many occasions, democratic actors should not be the grave diggers of the democratic process. Indicators worldwide show that democracy or civil government only becomes secure when the business of development is attended to by democratic actors. What are we seeing now? Just spontaneously, openly, some errant persons will see military vehicles passing and they start shouting, "We want you back." Do they know what they're talking about? Do they know what the people of this country went through? And young people, maybe 25, 30 years, never knew what the military government represented at the time. So they've just heard about it. And so that's how dangerous and perilous it can be when democracy is not yielding development. It's a very serious matter. And so
all right, Mr. Ogunye,
those who are in government,
when we talk about this development,
those who are in government should take it and just do the business of government in an efficient manner and in a manner that the people will know that the belt is being tightened all around, not in one section of the population.
Okay, beautiful. Let me take it off from there, because at the time of the initial appointments by the president, the concerns around round pegs and square holes came up, and now we find that the president has done appointments or reshuffled his cabinet to the point where he's moved some persons who have been in certain areas to another area. You find the Minister of Health moved to Education. You find the Minister of Sports moved to Trade and Investment. You find the Minister of State for Education at the time, who was a doctor, and the questions around his position at the time. But now he's now moved to Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs. What do you make of this reshuffling when we talk about getting it right? Because the president has fired based on the fact that he's not satisfied with the performances of those whom he just fired.
It's best for those who have expertise and specialization in certain areas to superintend those areas, because it brings about efficiency, and they will not be lied to, or it will be less difficult, or more difficult rather, to lie to them by bureaucrats and civil servants that some people have called evil servants and all that. So they hit the ground running once they are there. Round peg in round holes. But it's generally believed that ministers can serve anywhere. We've had a lawyer, a senior lawyer, becoming a minister of works in Nigeria, becoming a minister of energy in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So it is believed that minister can serve anywhere. And those ministers, anyway, will not reject such appointments. They will say, no, this is not what I'm looking for. This is not where I will optimize my contribution. No. Because people just want to get appointments, and people lobby for these appointments. So it is rare to see people say, but I'm not an agronomist. I'm not an agricultural expert. I've not done anything like this before. So why do you want me to be a minister of agriculture? Or I'm not an educationist. So why do you want me to be here? And so on and so forth. But as I said, I generally believe that ministers can, people with many disciplines can serve, across the areas where those disciplines are required, and that will not be a problem for politicians. They claim that they are the political heads, and that the experts, the bureaucrats, are the people in the ministry, and that they will do the job anyway. So that's the notion that. But as I said, it's better to get those who know about the ministry they are superintending to be put there. But that has not been our experience, not only now, but even before now.
Let me get your thoughts on what you think about scrapping the Niger Delta Affairs Ministry and replacing it with a regional ministry because of the development commissions that have been created. Now, most of these development commissions have been criticized as unnecessary, but some argue that for development to occur, that it is necessary to have these development commissions. There are some regions that don't have their commissions yet, still in the works. But what do you think about a regional ministry to address development commissions, bearing in mind that the Establishing Act of these commissions designates them in the presidency initially?
Over time, the issue of having regional or zonal development commission has been politicized. I thought that the Niger Delta Development Commission was created specifically to deal with the problem of that region. But politicians, be whom they are, have come forward to say that every zone has its own peculiar problem. And so this has been replicated now entirely across those zones. So I think that it's a smart move, therefore, for the president to streamline, have one ministry, and then have these commissions that now are entirely in the 6 geopolitical zones to serve in that under that ministry. I think that that's some good thinking, if you ask me, because I saw it and I felt that, this one is perhaps a solid thing to do, at this point in time.
Are you surprised with the appointments in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs? I ask that because there have been those who have said that we don't need a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. In fact, I recall that Chief Bode George described it as a iffy ministry. There are headlines that describe it as a corruption-laden ministry, but now we have 2 ministers overseeing that ministry. What are your thoughts on that?
In Nigeria, we started with 3 regions. Then we became 4 regions. Then we became 12 states, 19, 30 states, then 36 states. States are being atomized in Nigeria. In the same fashion, ministries, departments are being atomized and replicated. I've talked about this before. Governments had, they call it poverty alleviation program, intervention programs. Some of the programs are funded by development partners and lenders and, Western countries who claim that they are giving handouts to poor nations, according to them. And so this money will come in some locally sourced, domestically, sourced, and they are spent on these programs. So in the past administration had a Sure P program. Another one will come with another program. So eventually, under the past administration of Muhammadu Buhari, we now have this Ministry of Humanitarian, and it became a center for sleaze. So much so that the EFCC, started investigating it, the Department of Government, before matters came to a head with the Shilo testimony giver, and so I don't know what the thinking in government is if that ministry had been run in such a manner that is now regarded as a criminal enterprise. If that notion is being, entrenched, what is the assurance that those who may be appointed to superintendent, whether they be 2 or 3 or 1, will also not, remember, at the very least, remember what was going on there before. Such interventions can be done under substantive ministries. That's the point I'm making. But, more and more people, more and more interest coalesce in forming government, and everybody just wants a piece of the pie. Everybody wants a position. Everybody wants something. And so politicians will say that we are in this just to get you elected, and then we won't have anything. What are we going to have? So we need to recalibrate our thinking. We need to prioritize service. We even need to make government not so lucrative as to attract people that think that government is business and that it is a place to make money. In the past in this country, even in the legislature, headmasters, school principals were the ones going to parliament in Western region, in all the parts of this country. So the question of having a permanent bureaucracy under a presidential system of government, you have legislators there, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. And I think that we need to learn a lot. Look, I give this example. Each time I look at the British system and I see that iconic number 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister of Great Britain, or the United Kingdom, will just leave his home and then go to the road. Mentally, I then compare it with our own Aso Rock. And all the things we do in our various houses of assembly, in our various government houses, the waste. I mean,
we're almost out of time, but I just want to ask you this question. With regard to, I recall the agitations before the president eventually appointed a Minister of Youth, and now the Minister of Youth has been fired. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he who hires has the right to fire. I don't know the reason why that minister has been fired, but
perhaps public
president has his own metrics. The president has his own has his ways of measuring performance. I know that the lady Adiza, was the one going around the ministry and assessing their performance. Maybe there's a report of performance at the level of each ministry, and the president feels that some of them, have not discharged their responsibility creditably well, and that therefore he has to remove them. There are some of the ministers. Yes.
Mr. Oguye, I was going to say thank you very much for your time because we've run out of time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to speak with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Mr. G.T. Ogunye is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll go into our second discussion. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Politics Today. Now, the PDP Governors Forum held a meeting last night in Abuja behind closed doors. The governors of Bauchi, Plateau, Zamfara, Osun, and Rivers states were in attendance. So that's 5 governors out of the 13 elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party The governors of Adamawa, Oyo, Delta, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, and Taraba states were absent. This meeting was supposed to be one of the series of meetings by the party leaders to find solution to the leadership crisis in the party. The communique issued by the PDP Governors Forum at the end of what they described as an enlarged meeting, which also had in attendance the Board of Trustees, the National Working Committee, the National Assembly leadership of the PDP caucus, and former governors of the party. Now, the party resolved that, one, the National Executive Committee meeting, originally slated for the 24th of October, has been rescheduled to November 28, 2024. Now, bear in mind that the PDP Board of Trustees and some other prominent members of the party had advised that the party sticks to the October 24th date for the National Executive Committee meeting, where critical decisions affecting the unity of the party would be taken, perhaps ahead of the Ondo election. But according to the communique, the postponement is to ensure that the party goes into the forthcoming Ondo governorship elections with the unity and strength demanded to unseat the floundering, according to the All Progressives Congress in the state. So let's get into the conversation now. I'm joined by a former national vice chairman of the PDP South-South, Mr. Emmanuel Ogidi. Welcome to Politics Today.
Thank you. Good evening.
I think it's nice to even see you laugh, considering what's happening in your party. But then again, I'd like to get your thoughts on what happened last night. There were high expectations from the meeting last night. I don't know if you had similar expectations, but talk to us about what you think about that communique issued at the end of that meeting.
You know, the PDP has an inbuilt mechanism on resolving issues. No matter how it seems to people outside, we have internal. And you can see that almost all the organs were present in the meeting yesterday. So it's safe. Because these same people are also part of the NEC. I'm part of the NEC. Now, it's a result of consultations. I'm happy. You know what? I'm happy. I belong, right now, I'm a member of the National Reconciliation Committee. Our job is we go around to ensure that there's peace in the party. And we've been doing that. So with the outcome of yesterday, we're happy in the committee that there's a progress in what we're doing. And people are also listening to what we're doing. So PDP, you can see that if you check the platforms, all the agitation has dropped because they know that there's something. So it's okay, we're good to go.
Well, you know, when you, as a member of the National Reconciliation Committee, when you had your meeting a few days ago, one of the things that you told journalists was that you were looking to reconcile everyone ahead of the Ondo governorship election. Now, what sort of reconciliation will be in place before then? Because it would seem that the PDP Governors Forum and the other enlarged stakeholders that attended that meeting have put everything on hold until after the election.
No, what do you mean by putting everything on hold?
How does that affect your reconciliation process?
It doesn't affect what we're doing. No, nothing is on hold.
How does the NEC also affect it? Because recall that, as I said earlier, the Board of Trustees advised that this should hold before the election.
You see, there were a lot of consultations going on. And one of the things people are expecting, just like I said, there is no NEC meeting that we've ever held that the roof came down. The roof will never come down. Because we have our own inbuilt mechanism in resolving issues. What they did yesterday was in line with what we think about the party. And let me quickly use the opportunity to thank Nigerians for their patience on us. Nigerians have been so generous with us. Nigerians are like farmers. You know, if a farmer is not patient, you will not see the result of his labor.
This mechanism you talk about, some argue that it hasn't worked, and that's why this crisis has lingered. In fact, some say that what the party is going through now is unusual. This is not the kind of crisis it has had in the past, and that's perhaps why this mechanism you talk about has not worked.
The mechanism is working. This is not the problem. What is the problem? We've seen worse. We've got it 2 secretariats before. 2 secretariats. So how can you say this is worse? We're still maintaining 1 secretariat. There were policemen, soldiers gathering in our office before. Nothing like that. So, it's working.
There are members of your party who don't understand why this has festered.
Now, let me tell you this. You see, when you are in opposition, especially when you have never been structured for opposition, I'll tell you the truth. When PDP was formed, 1998, and we went into governance, recall, we were so set that we're going to rule forever. But nothing is forever. We're doing our best. For 16 years, you know where we took the country to. But all of a sudden, some Nigerians felt that look, there must be a change. It's true that some of us also gave a reason for that. But where's the change today? It has brought us down to the barest, whatever you can think about. Yes, people are not happy with what's going on. That's why I'm happy. But behind that, I know that we have this inbuilt mechanism to deal with all those issues. The issues are not serious as you think. But it's because when you are dealing with human being, you have to be very careful. The human being is not like metals or robots or anything. The same human, they just have to tell you good morning. You have to realize, how can even insult you? That's a human being for you. So you have to be a human being because it's a delicate person. You must handle the human being with tact.
A member of your board of trustees, Chief Bode George, questions the composition of the reconciliation and disciplinary committees. He
question
the disciplinary.
Yes,
but your recommendations will go to the disciplinary committee. He doesn't think that the composition is strong enough or experienced enough to handle whatever may arise.
You see, like I said, it's again about perception. But I believe one thing. By the time we finish our reconciliation, it may not even be any need to go to a discipline. You get what I mean? Myself, a culprit, I accept my fault. I say, please forgive me. What do you do? Because in this game, we need everybody on board. It is true, some have gone overboard. They have done all kinds of destructiveness. Yes, they have done that. But if they show repentance, what do you do? There must be discipline. Take the case of what they call traffic light. You must monitor your traffic light. But sometimes you see what motorists do. Sometimes they end in accident that's also caused death. Some of them have been forgiven. So our job as reconciliation is to bring everybody back on track. Very difficult assignment. But I believe by the grace of God we'll achieve it.
Yeah, because there are those who say that what you have in the party right now, the crisis stems from what happened with the National Convention. And they say that what would the committee do if those who you invite do not show up, because they already agreed and they questioned whether or not this is a necessary move at this time. Do you have what it takes to address people failing to honor your invitations?
When we get to that, we will cross it. We expect them to come.
And if they don't?
They will come. I have that belief.
Well, you know, from your...
You see, because of the way we are going about it, they are beginning to see the genuineness of what we are doing. So they will come.
Well, from your understanding...
We met with the NWC yesterday. Yes, technically, they were the ones that inaugurated us. But we're with them. So,
what's the state of the leadership crisis of your party? I would like you to clarify if the PDP has a multifaceted crisis with regard to, is it a leadership problem or is it a grievance between two people?
You see, which two people are there?
I mean,
that's what we'll say. No,
some point to Minister of FCT is Wiki and Atiku Abubakar.
No, it's perception. That's what people perceive. How can one Vice President Atiku Abubakar have a problem with the leadership? Wiki, yes, he may have because of annoyance. Why would he not be annoyed? He's human. He's human.
What is his annoyance with the leadership?
Whatever it is, annoyance is human. There's nothing wrong with getting annoyed. Our job is to make sure that it's within the...
But is the leadership not legitimately in place?
It's in place.
So what is his grievance with that legitimate leadership?
Look, you see, when you are frustrated,
By what?
Whatever, human being. Okay, look at the man who's frustrated. The wife just finished abusing him. The driver said, "Good morning." He said, "Get out." The driver didn't do anything wrong, but because the wife had offended him, he transferred the aggression. So that's what's happening. Transferred aggression.
That's what's happening with who?
With whoever is not happy with what's going on. Because people have been saying, they said, oh, because of the, the convention. Over a year ago. So if somebody is still upset, what will the person do? It's going to be transferred aggression. That's what I mean. We lost election in 2023. We are aggrieved. Transferred aggression. But each time I want to say something against this government, people say, oh, they are frustrated. We are not really frustrated. But we have not perfected the act of being in opposition. If not, with all this that is going on, we should be attacking what's going on, but rather we are being distracted. Look at what's going on in the country today. As big as the federal government is, workers cannot go to work all the 5 days a week anymore. They do 3 days, 2 days shift. I don't even know how you guys are on for the last, you keep running. You're running generator. You're on a plan, what do you call it? The plan A or plan 12. I don't know what you call it these days. You don't enjoy electricity? The cost of living is going on. As I was coming here, I saw a car on the street. And it's good about, Minister of, what do you call it? Cows in this federal cabinet, when we were government, when President Basajo was here later on, you never saw cows on the street. But that's what you see.
Why do you think that has happened now?
Because they're not organized. I'm a small-time farmer now. I'm having a problem with the farms. The last time this, this headman came, took away, I planted, I wanted to start small. I had 1,000 coconut and 1,000, plantain. They came and did all kinds of things to my plant.
So when you talk about organization and them not being organized,
yeah.
Do you think that this livestock ministry that the president has introduced now will address some of the concerns? You're a farmer. You say you've been attacked by herdsmen as well. Do you think that it will address it? I'm laughing. The same day it was announced, the same day I saw cow on the road, I said, okay. So the minister has a lot of work because they're going to start from Abuja. That's all. You see, but what is wrong with us? Livestock have been sustaining countries. What is wrong with us? Why can't it sustain us? The only thing we hear is destruction. What kind of country are we in? With all the information at our beck and call, we've seen what they do. The milk. No. Well, since you're here as opposition, I might as well just ask you what you think about the reshuffling of the cabinet by the president. Because he's been commended by quite a number of people who said...
It's a distraction. You see,
the commendation is...
When your government is failing, you do one or two things, so you'll have to discuss for some time. That's what it's doing.
You think it's a distraction?
It's a distraction. It's a distraction. You fire 5, you engage 7. We're saying it is too heavy, you're increasing it with another. What are you talking about? Oh, the president didn't know everybody, they were nominated, suggested. Isn't that what has happened again? The 7 of them were not suggested to him. What are we talking about? You remember when they went to London, what do you call that place? The lecture. They were going to put square peg and square holes. That's what they said when they were campaigning. So where are the square peg and the square hole now? Oh, you can remember that if I will answer that question, this will answer this question. It's all showmanship. What do you think to the showmanship? Showmanship.
Are you speaking from a general point of view, or there are specific appointments that you have a problem with?
Appointment with them? Look, you see, if you are efficient, you are here to show anything that cannot handle the welfare the safety of property and so on. It has failed. Look at the last situation. Yeah, I left Asaba yesterday by the flight of 8:30 in the morning. We left Asaba after 9 p.m. yesterday. We landed in Abuja. So when coming, I was very impressed. You mean there's street light now? Because during Buhari's time, there was no street light. I said things have improved though. As soon as we got to the city gate, darkness. This is the federal capital. The same people who said if you cannot give light before this time, 6 months, the federal government. The same people who say if I cannot make sure everybody is comfortable with light, don't vote me second time. Nobody is going to vote them second. They're going to steal and run the game with it.
Your party that should be holding them to account is a mess.
Yeah, and they are part of our problem.
Troubles,
they
are
part of our problem.
You find that you're not.
But I tell you, something's going to break. No, something's going to break. You see, something's going to break, and you start seeing the truth about everything. I believe so much in that.
When we'll talk about reconciliation for the PDP, as a member of the Reconciliation Committee, what exactly is reconciliation for the PDP? And also, while you talk about that, look at the Ondo election forthcoming, and then look at what happened in Edo State.
Good.
What did you do in Edo State, and what would you be doing differently ahead of the Ondo governorship election?
You see, we did everything in Edo State. They ran again with the result. You can even
before you talk about the result, when you say you did everything, what did you do?
We campaign? We campaigned.
No, I mean, I'm talking about reconciliation because, one, you had a lot of defections from your party. The deputy governor left. You had some political heavyweights on the state lead.
Yes. When we were inaugurated, there was not enough time to do that. If that's what you want to say, yes, there was not enough time. But when we went to your state last week, we met with the state, we met with the Ondo state. We had what they told us. And we worked on it. We're good to go in Ondo State, yes. But in the case of Edo, we didn't have enough time. But in spite of that, we won that election. We did.
So when you talk about winning this election, the Ondo State election is coming up now.
Yeah.
Concerns around your party insisting that results were changed with regard, and then the electoral umpire. What is your level of confidence going into this election?
We always go with confidence. Let the umpire disappoint himself.
You know your party has a problem with the rec in the state. Is it a national problem, or you leave it for the party at the state level to address?
We have stated what we have stated.
So what happens going forward?
What can you do?
Will you still partake in that?
Of course we're going to partake in it.
There are no constitutional grounds for which you want the rec to be removed.
We have stated what we have stated.
Which is?
We recommend it. You see, when we won the election in 2007, and we saw that there were some discrepancies, late Yaradua admitted and said, look, we need to redo, we need to work on how we can ensure that every election is free and fair. And we worked on it. So, but it has been thrown under the bus again.
Mr. Ogidi,
thank you.
Only 5 out of 13 PDP governors were at the meeting last night.
Oh, okay, good.
In last week, over the weekend actually, the APC national chairman was in Ondo State.
Yeah.
About 4 or 5 governors were with him to boost the confidence of the electorate and support the team there. When you talk about reconciliation ahead of your
all
election,
our governors that are on this project, I tell you that.
That on what project?
On the
How do you justify that? What's your understanding of why only 5 out of 13 were there yesterday?
Look, you see, before they came to that meeting, like I said, they met. They've agreed on what to do. That's it. They've agreed. I know that one clearly.
You know, some members of the House of Representatives under your party have very much aggrieved with the leadership of your party. You've consistently held public engagements speaking against the leadership of your party.
We're working on that. Working on that.
All right.
That's our job.
Mr. Emmanuel Ogidi, former National Vice Chairman of the PDP South-South, thank you very much for coming on Politics Today.
And thank you for the opportunity also.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's all the time we have in Politics Today. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.